number 7. Understand what the FDA requires food manufacturers to disclose to you on their food labels, as well as what is optional to disclose. So basically, this checklist item is understand what the food label is really telling you. There's a lot of confusion about this topic, but it's really fairly simple. You just have to know what the rules are. So here are the rules. The FDA requires a food manufacturer to do 2 things. Number 1, they require a food manufacturer to list every ingredient that is actually contained in the food. Number 2, for every ingredient that either is one of the top 8 food allergens or contains the protein of one of the top 8 food allergens, they have to tell you that in language that's really easy for you to understand. And that is it. That is all the Food Allergen Labeling and Consumer Protection Act requires a food manufacturer to tell you. Pretty simple, right? No. There's a lot of latitude with what the food manufacturers can do, and that's for a good reason. So let's just kind of talk through some of the things that you've probably seen on a food label, or really some good questions that you might have. They're questions that I had when I first started exploring this. So, does the FDA require a food manufacturer to use boldface in the ingredient listing when some of the ingredients are food allergens? No, but some of them do anyway. How about this one? Does the FDA require a food manufacturer to list the food allergens in a separate line below the ingredient list? No, but some of them do anyway. Let's see, what might be another one? Does the FDA require a food manufacturer to say to you, hey consumer, look at this one specific place on any label produced by any food manufacturer if you want to know if it's safe for you? Are they required to do that? No, they're not. So what this might be telling you is the answer to this next question, which is, as a food allergic consumer or the parent of a child with food allergies, do you have to read every label, every ingredient on every label every time you buy a product? Yes. Now, I know that might sound overwhelming, but once you've done it a couple of times, you'll be scanning in no time, and it really gets pretty easy. So why do you have to read every label every time? Well, for 2 reasons. Labels aren't consistent from one manufacturer to another because the FDA provides a lot of latitude with how they can get this information to you. So you just have to read the full label to know, okay, is there weed in this? I don't know, nothing's bolded. I better read the whole thing to see if there's weed, and so on. Another reason why, as a consumer, you have to read every label every time is because ingredients change. I mean, I'm a food manufacturer myself, and I know that in the first 3 months of starting our food brand, I changed one of my cookies. I changed the recipe 3 times, and I had to redo the label. So it happens. Even with huge food manufacturers, it happens. So you've got to read every time just to make sure that there hasn't been a change. Okay, now one of the things that I mentioned was top 8 food allergens. And let me just tell you what those are, and then I'll give you my interpretation about why the FDA only really covers the top 8. Okay, so here they are. Milk, eggs, fish, crustacean shellfish, tree nuts, peanuts, wheat, soybeans. Okay, now, why does FALCPA, the Food Allergen Labeling and Consumer Protection Act, only really pertain to those top 8 food allergens? Well, for a couple of reasons. First, they're the most commonly diagnosed food allergens. There are hundreds of foods that people could be allergic to, but those 8 are the ones that people are most likely to be diagnosed with. Not only are they the most common, but they're also the most likely to cause a severe allergic reaction. And again, bear in mind that we're not doctors. This is just our interpretation based on our research. So there it is. Food manufacturers are required by the FDA to do just two things. They have to tell you every ingredient that is actually contained in the food that you're buying, and for each ingredient that is either one of those top 8 food allergens or contains the protein of one of those top 8 food allergens, they have to tell you that in language that's easy for you to understand. Let me give you a quick example of that. Let's say that you're reading a food label and you see in the ingredient list the word albumin. Okay, well, albumin is egg protein, basically. So a food manufacturer has to say, they have to tell you that that's egg. So they can have the word albumin in their label, but then in some way on the label they need to say egg, or derived from egg, or contains egg protein, or something of the sort. The word egg would have to also appear.